Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I hope all of you are doing well today. So in this video I'm going to be answering a question that somebody posed on my channel, on my community tab recently, and that is how to start working with Jesus Malverde. Now, if you want to start working with him, you're going to want to do a few things. For one thing, you're going to want to do a lot of research. You want to kind of become acquainted with all of his legends and his stories, and there are a lot of them. There are a lot of different versions of his stories and his legends that kind of fluctuate depending on what source you're getting the information from. You're going to want to do research about his physical shrine and, you know, the place that it's at in Mexico. So, with his legends, you can find them in articles online. I did do a video before talking about, I think it's called Who is Jesus Malverde? And in that video, I kind of went into some of his common legends, his common backstories about him being a Robin Hood type figure. You know, the generous bandit, the angel of the poor, someone who stole from the rich to give to the less fortunate, and somebody who was trying to kind of, make things more fair for the working class people who were living in poverty due to the corruption of the people who were kind of in government during that time period. So I would say the first thing to do is do a lot of research and kind of educate yourself about his his legends, because he is a larger than life outlaw, and there is a lot of stories about him that are really fun and interesting, and I think it'll be really fun to do that part, to do the research bit. The second thing is to look into the true life facts about him, how people work with him, the history of his shrines, the stories about his burial, the stories and the news articles even about his shrine and about how it was moved and all of the chaos that ensued and all of the community outrage. I think it's good to inform yourself about that as well. I think it's good to just to know your history about him before you start working with him. And I think by doing all this research, you really will get a better feel for him, as a historical figure, because he is a historical figure at this point. I think another thing to do is to do research about how he is venerated. So with this, you're going to want to be doing research about the way people pray to him, how people interact with him at his shrines, at his places of worship, the kinds of prayers people say to him, the colors associated with him, how the altars are created and constructed, which is a different thing. So not only are you looking into how he's venerated, you also want to look up how his altar is set up. Now, there's not too much of people talking online about this, about how his altars are set up, but it seems like some of the books out there do go into a bit of detail about how to properly set up a traditional Jesus Malverde altar. And I think eventually on my channel I'll get to that point, because I do have an altar set up to him, although the one I have isn't really traditional. It's probably, it's a typical type of altar with the statue and the two candles on either side. But beyond that, I don't think it's probably has all of the symbols that are typically associated with him. So eventually I'll probably do a video discussing how to create a formal altar to Jesus Malverde. Another thing for you to do, aside from researching his symbols and his colors and numbers and things like that, is to ask yourself why you want to work with him. What do you feel like he can offer you? What has he been shown to offer other people that you feel like you could benefit from? Is it his stories? Is his something about his energy? Is it about where he comes from? Is it about his generosity, his masculinity, and his virtuous nature in that regard? Is it, his ties to different kinds of things? Another thing to think about and to consider is, do you want to work with him as a simple devotee or as a practitioner? Because you can pray to him without practicing any kind of magic or anything like that. There are people, simple folk, who work with him the same as with Santa Muerte, They don't do any magic, they don't do any rituals, they simply pray at the altar. They light a candle, they make a prayer, and that's it. They don't have any magic really involved with their practice. And you can work with him like that too. However, it's up to you to choose whether or not you want to work with him as a simple devotee, as somebody who simply just prays to him, or as a practitioner, somebody who calls on him in a magical capacity, somebody who works with him, somebody who maybe even channels him, somebody who uses his energies for divination, you know, depending on what you practice, which you should already know. And odds are, if you're on my channel, you probably want to work with him for, magical purposes in a magical capacity. Now, like Santa Muerte, he seems like he can pretty much be worked with for really anything. He seems like he doesn't have a specific area of expertise. He seems like he's very kind of well-rounded. I've seen rituals and rites to him for money, love, um, work, career, dream magic, you know, all manner of different types of things. And so he does seem to be able to provide a lot of value in different ways, depending on, your standpoint and what you're trying to achieve with your practice and what you hope to kind of be able to gain by working with him. Another thing to consider if you are trying to work with him is gaining an image of him. Now, this can be a picture or a statue. Now, you can find these in person at flea markets, at botanicas, at yerberias, at occult shops. Usually, they're more likely to be found in predominantly Hispanic communities. I live in Houston, so pretty much any occult store I go into in a Hispanic community is absolutely going to have, Jesus Malverde statues. But even if you don't live near communities that sell statues like that in person, you can absolutely buy them on Amazon. You can buy them on eBay. Amazon has some pretty decent ones. eBay has some more unique ones. There are some that have both Santa Muerte and Jesus Malverde, or even Santa Muerte, Jesus Malverde, and Saint Jude on them. But for the purpose of creating an altar, I would just stick with just Jesus Malverde, the statues. If you do create an altar to him, I would say keep it separate from your other altars. Like, don't have two altars in the same space unless you're instructed to do so. But as a general rule, I would say just keep altars separate. If there are separate beings, then just give them separate altars. Another thing is you don't have to have a statue, but I think having a statue is a really good idea. I think it's fine to start off with an image of him that maybe you put in a picture frame and put on the altar. But if you want to eventually, upgrade to a statue when you have more money to do so, then, I think that's perfectly fine. Another thing is to really kind of get a feel for how he works with his devotees, and this is by hearing other people's experiences with him. So for this, you would want to go and kind of look up people on YouTube, if you can find some, discussing their interactions with him, the vibes they got from him, how it was to work with him. And I think a really good place, maybe, I'm not sure if they have any on there, but there's a website called Become a Living God, and that one has it's like a forum, and I think there are a lot of people who discuss their interactions with him. I think I remember seeing some on there, people discussing what it was like working with him. And also, you want to look in the YouTube comments. So if you find any videos about Jesus Malverde, scroll through all the comments and you're bound to find some people recounting and sharing their personal experiences with him. And I think that that's a really good way to really get kind of an unbiased view of what it's like working with him, because you're hearing the words from other everyday normal people, not necessarily somebody who's trying to sell you on him or make him out to be some kind of, angry or violent character. And then that's another point in this video, his association with, the whole scene in Mexico with all of the wars and, just that negative stuff, which I don't want to get into on my channel, and I don't want to say the wrong thing since I would like this video to be able to be shown to more people. So do your research. Know that he is one of those beings who is very much demonized and made to seem very one-dimensional. Like all he does is just involved with, crime and drugs, but there's so much more to him than that. And he really should be known for his generous nature and his for his non-judgmental nature. Because these people who are out here committing these crimes, they work with him because he's not really judgmental, it seems, And even though they make up a small portion of his devotees, they kind of have become the face of working with him because of, popular media and the, sensationalizing, all of this, all this craziness that's going on, close to the border and in the border towns and things like that. And, all the things that are going on are really sad and really tumultuous, especially for the people who live there. But the problem is a lot of devotees today of his, they are kind of getting lumped in with that negativity. So they are kind of getting a bad rap in a way. And I think it's good to have more representation for him out there to kind of cast him in a different light. Because some people, they know of him to be involved with those people, and they know that he's venerated by some of those people. And they also know of him to kind of be venerated by people who are, really into drugs and smoking on herbs and things like that, which I've met a couple of people in real life who are devotees of his, and it seems like a lot of their practice seems like it was just centered around the fact that he has to do with keeping you concealed from police and, him constantly being associated with drugs, which I feel like is only because of his veneration by those, organized criminals, not really for anything else. And I feel like even nowadays, so much of his imagery is covered in like, the plans and things like that. Like it feels like you can't even get away from it. And as somebody who doesn't even smoke, you know, it was kind of a turnoff for me because I don't even like that kind of stuff. I don't really get into that. And it's like so many people view him almost like as a mascot for people who smoke. And like they just have him like covered head to toe in like these plant leaves, which is fine. Like, and it's not to say that you're wrong if you smoke, and it's not to say if you smoke and you want your statue to have that symbols depicted all over it, that's fine. But as somebody who doesn't smoke, I was having a really difficult time finding a statue that didn't have those images. It's become so ingrained in the collective consciousness in regards to him that you really can't get away from it. And I think it's really interesting how the influence of them among the devotees of the organized criminals and his devotees. So just be aware that if you are deciding to become a devotee of his, people might judge that and associate you with these criminals. And if you are, touting the symbolism of him with these plant leaves and things like that, it's also could give people the wrong view of him and of you. And also, if your whole practice is centered around, the fact that you smoke and things like that, just you can still work with him if that's all you choose to gain from your interactions with him. But I just feel like there's a lot more to gain. So maybe just look into deeper levels with him, because there's a lot more to him. And I think he would absolutely appreciate being seen in a new light. So just be aware that he is, associated with, the organized criminals. And if you are out and about and you have his imagery on you, people, especially, police and things like that, could get the wrong idea of you right on sight. If you have images of Jesus Malverde on your car or on your shirt or something, and somebody who knows about this organized crime could think the wrong thing about you. So just be aware, because he is very demonized and he's been very smeared by the media, both in Mexico and the United States, and even in a lot of articles online. And not only that, but some devotees of his, they haven't really helped the narrative because they keep kind of perpetuating, you know, this image of him and these ideas of him by constantly showing imagery of him and pushing images of him that have him, you know, with like the bullets and like, you know, like the hand things, you know, all that kind of stuff, which isn't good, in my opinion, you know, because it makes it harder for people who don't work with him to see him as a well-rounded, generous spirit. Because although all this stuff is a part of him, it's not all he is. He isn't a mascot for people who smoke. You know, he is a well-rounded spirit who, you know, lived a human life where I doubt he smoked at all. If, you know, I wouldn't be surprised. So yeah. So another thing to think about if you choose to work with him is the books out there about him. There are not that many books out there. I just personally just bought some. Actually, I just bought these online. It's probably going to be backwards for you. It says Jesus Malverde, The Good and Easy Life. And then this one, it's just Malverde, The Dream Book. These are both by the same author. I got these on Amazon. Somebody called S. Rob. Um, these are pretty good. I do have something, I don't know if it's considered negative, and maybe I missed it when I don't want to say it, but they seem pretty good, and I might use the rituals in them, although they call upon a certain being that I've never worked with before, that I feel, I don't know if intimidated is the right word. I feel very hesitant to call on them. Um, but anyway, so yeah, there's a lot of, actually, there's not a lot of media about him online. There's not that many books about him, but you can find them. Just go on Amazon and potentially on eBay. But definitely Amazon, there's some different books about him. I'd say just buy all the stuff you can, you know, buy and learn. And maybe not all the books will be good that you find, but you won't know until you buy them. And I haven't bought a lot of them myself. Maybe when I start buying them, I'll give y'all reviews. You can have like, so you can kind of have a better idea about which books are maybe more worth your time. But I don't have those books yet. I only recently just started buying books about Jesus Malverde. So, but yeah, I would say go ahead and start maybe purchasing some books, um, and just trying to educate yourself. Watch as many YouTube videos as you can, hear different people's opinions, listen to different people's views, perspectives, listen to what different people have to say, and over time you will get a better feel for him and his vibes and his energies. Now, as far as how often to work with him, I I couldn't answer that question. With Santa Muerte, because there's so many people working with her, it feels like there's a more kind of standard way of working with her. With the Sus Malverde, I don't know that there really is any kind of a standard way. Um, but if you want to start working with him, like I said, do research about his legends, do research about the communities that actually work with him in real life and about his real life shrines. Do research about how he's typically venerated. Do research about the symbols associated with him, like the colors associated with him. By buying some of these books, you can learn about how some of the typical altars to him are set up, and also you can learn more about, you know, how he interacts with the devotees and how different people have had experiences with him by reading a lot of YouTube comments, watching certain YouTube videos, and also by buying some of these books by authors who have decided to publish books about him online and on Amazon. So, oh, and as far as statues go, just shop around, you know. You can buy very small ones if you want, for very, you know, pretty inexpensive to buy really little ones. I think the one I bought was about maybe 8 inches tall. And you could probably find ones that are larger for probably cheaper than what I paid for, because I bought it in person. Because I was just really excited to buy it, and I didn't want to wait to get one online. So yeah, just go ahead and do your research. I think he's a very interesting spirit. He's very great. He's very masculine spirit. He's very masculine qualities, and he's masculine in a non-toxic way. Think more like old world masculinity, like manly, protective, hardworking, that kind of energy to him. Very worldly and kind of down to earth energy too. So with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and end the video here. I hope this kind of helped kind of steer you in the right direction a little bit and kind of gave you some pointers and some things to think about if you're considering working with Jesus Malverde. With that being said, yeah, that's about all I have to say. Like if you liked, comment if you feel so called to do so, and become a patron on Patreon if you want to support this channel. And yeah, that's about all I have to really say about this. Yeah, so thank you all so much for watching, and I will see all of you in the next one. Take care.